He is actually the office administrator itself from Duke-NUS, and he is currently here right now, right, to in a sense help us answer any questions that we may actually have with regards to applications to Duke-NUS. Hi, Zach.
I
Hi, great to actually have you on today itself to actually, in a sense, have a discussion with our students. Okay.
Yep.
With some of our students itself, right, they have, in a sense, asked the following questions itself. Number one itself, right, is actually how many years of studying itself is actually required to, in a sense, get into Duke-NUS?
So for Duke-NUS, right, our entry requirement is actually different from the MBBS. So for Duke-NUS, we are postgraduate medical school. So we will at least need an undergraduate cert to enter into the program. And apart from that cert, right, we also need another set of tests, which is called the MCAT test. Yeah.
Okay. And this is actually another question that they have actually posted as well. They note that they are able to see that there are two different tests that is actually required. I think it's either a GAMSAT or MCAT. Does Duke-NUS only favor MCATs?
No. Actually, so we do also accept GAMSAT, but most of the students who are taking GAMSAT is actually coming from the Australia side. So we only open up for the GAMSAT for the Australian, but if let's say Singaporeans or other foreign students who want to take GAMSAT, it is still available. So we don't favor any of the tests.
Okay, this may actually sound a little bit personal, but would you be able to at least let us know what is the results required to achieve, in a sense, obtain from either GAMSAT or even MCAT?
Okay, so for us, right, we do not have a cut-off score. So for MCAT, our average score is actually 515, and for GAMSAT, there's a 90th percentile requirement. So in the event, if let's say you don't meet the the average, right, you will still be considered. So just to be sure that is the average score and not the cut-off score for MCAT.
Okay, thank you so much itself, Zach. You have actually, in a sense, helped quite a number of students, especially with this particular question. The next one itself that they will actually always be asking, right, would actually be if they actually come in from different backgrounds itself, right, would Duke-NUS actually, it says, consider them?
Yes. So for us, right, we do accept diversity background. So we are not only accepting science-based students. So we do have a lot of non-science-based students like engineering and business and so on and so forth. So the reason why our non-science background student is actually smaller in the percentage is because we have more science students actually applying than the non-science students. Yeah, so I think a lot of non-science students think that they couldn't apply to the program. That's why there's the differences in the percentage. Yeah, but we do welcome non-science students because we do promote the diversity in the class.
Okay. Then one of the students basically asked me itself, how would they know if they're actually eligible for medical school? What kind of other things do you, in a sense, look at for, especially for Duke-NUS?
Okay, so for us, right, we are looking at holistic assessment. So apart from the academic scores, which is the GPA and the MCAT or GAMSAT score, we do look at other components like your leadership skills, your communication skills, maybe if you are working adult, that's working experience, research experiences, and so on and so forth. So I understand that just now there's some, I think Joyce mentioned about the shadowing or those are actually an additional advantage to the application side. Yeah, but the more important portion is still the academic side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, like we have actually talked about, you actually mentioned job shadowing is actually appropriate. You focus more in terms of academics. You also look in terms of the admissions test itself. Is there any other things itself that the students would need to, in a sense, prepare? Like, for example, let's say they have actually gotten like work experience, but the work experience may not be related to medicine. Maybe at a later point itself, right, they actually decided, oh, right now I'm actually looking in terms of actually going into medicine. Can I take up courses, like, for example, from Coursera, or can I do like online education itself, right? Maybe pick up a cert or two itself to basically make myself more appealing in a sense.
Okay, like I mentioned earlier, so we do accept students coming from different backgrounds. So we do not require students to have any other form of related experiences or even studies. So we don't even need students to have like pre-med courses or that. So just the MCAT scores and whatever experience that you have, even like research, right? We don't need you to have clinical research experiences. Yeah, so for job shadowing, right, I do understand some students do the jobs shadowing to really increase the chances for the application. But for me, right, I mean, for my advice is the job shadowing is for you to get exposure, enough exposure to understand what you are signing up for. Because once you're not exposed, right, you won't really understand the industry, and hence you might not make a sound decision before committing yourself in the medical school. So for the job shadowing is really for you to understand the background, the industry well before you can actually commit yourself in that particular pathway. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much for this one here. The other question that I have actually been asked is, I'm sorry if some of them do in a sense sound repetitive, but a lot of them are actually very, very curious in terms of the same kind of thing itself. Would there be like a specific set of personal statement in terms of how to write the personal statement itself for Duke and US?
There is no specific way for you to write. So it's really to understand your motivation, your own story on why you wanted to become a medical student and eventually become a doctor. So additionally, apart from the personal statement or adversity personal writing, right, there will also be a reference letter. So we need at least 3 to 5 reference letter. So it's best to get at least 3 to be submitted for the application wise.
I see. Okay. And this one here is a bit more confidential. What are the steps for interviews?
Okay, so currently we are having our timeline for the interviews or the application is the application timeline will be from the 1st of June to end of January, and our application or the applicant day, which is the interview day, will be starting from September all the way to March next year. So every month we have at least one applicant day, which is the interview. So during the applicant day, right, there will be 2 individual interview by the prof or the clinician. So each interview will be 1-to-1 and a 30 minutes interview. So after or before the interview, because the applicant group will be split into 2, so each group will consist of doing the 2 interviews plus the situation judgment test. So that is around half a day program.
I see. I see. Then after the interviews itself, how long does it really take for Duke and US to actually revert back with an decision?
Okay, so it really depends. If let's say you are the right candidate, you will take earliest will be around 2 months after the interview. Then latest it will really depends on because it will be a rolling intake, so it might take up even until like April or May. So the class will only be starting in July or August every year.
Okay. Wow. Wow. So Duke and US really does, in a sense, take a lot of consideration in terms of like the whole entire process for the students. Oh, okay. If, for example, students who are currently in the middle of their studies for their degree itself, right? When do you think is actually the best time for them to actually, in a sense, start their application? Because like I have actually had a few of them who says, I am actually currently in year 2. Do I start my application now or do I wait until I finish year 3? Then only I basically start submitting.
I think for the undergrad students, right, year 2 onwards, you can start preparing the documentation. So you understand like what are the things to really prepare and start doing, like especially like for MCAT test, right? Because the validity is actually 4 years. So normally I would advise students to start studying at least or preparing for the MCAT test from year 2 onwards. So a lot of students previously actually take the test only in the last year. So if you're doing in the last year, let's say your score is not satisfactory, right? To yourself or even to the requirement, right? Normally you have limited time to really redo the test or retake the test. So normally I would ask students to actually take up the test during their year 3, so they have sufficient time to retake if needed. Yeah. Then for application wise or submission wise, it will be good to students normally will apply during their last year. So which is the fourth year of the undergrad studies. Then they can actually start submitting all the application.
Okay. And is there like a favoritism itself in terms of accepting students locally? Basically those who have actually in a sense completed their studies locally here itself, or is Duke-NUS basically considering students who have actually in a sense completed their studies abroad as well?
Okay, so there's no differences. So we don't we don't assess based on the university. So we assess based on the grades and the rest of the portfolio.
Okay. All right. Yeah. From my end itself, right, these are just some of the main ones that are being asked by the students. I would actually like to open up this session right now itself to students who are currently on the chat. And for those of you who have any pertaining questions itself to in the sense ask, you can ask, right? Or even ask us itself, right? Please unmute yourself, or you can actually type it out in the chat, and we will actually help to answer any of those questions itself for you. Wow, Zach, I just give them some time, all right? I think some of them are a little bit shy to, in a sense, approach the universities, especially someone like yourself itself, who is basically, in a sense, part and parcel of like Duke-NUS admissions team. So just give them some time itself to, in a sense, basically be able to, in a sense, ask any of the questions itself.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I have this really interesting one itself from one of our participants. He actually asked, right, what makes you want to switch to medicine? Is there like a specific way to, in a sense, answer such a question itself?
Okay, so there won't be a standardized answer to all the questions. Okay, so like for the interviews, right, our interviewers will normally want to understand who that candidate really are, their personality, their motivation. So try to be yourself because everyone will have their own stories, their own motivations. So please do not get any like perfect answers from the web or any answers from others because you yourself know best like why do you want to take up medicine? Is it being forced by your parents? Is it peer pressure? Or so and so forth. But you must understand this is your future career. So it's important to know that the reason is coming from yourself and not from others. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The other one itself that they actually asked itself, right, was actually, let's see, just check that again.
Yeah, I think they are thinking that I'm a medical student. So I'm actually not a medical student. So I'm from the admissions teams. So yeah, so I won't be able to answer the questions that you are looking at.
Yeah. One of the other one itself, is that they have actually asked was, this one here is actually another message that I actually got just now. In terms of like the portfolio itself, right? They are actually asking, right, leading up to the days for uni application and interview, what did you do to prepare yourself? So I believe they're actually asking in terms of how a portfolio should actually look like itself. Do you prefer students who only have like really a lot of like attachments or like internships or like volunteering itself
I mean,
in a holistic kind of way?
yeah, previously I did mention that we are looking at the application holistically. So, but in the event, if let's say you really do not have those experiences, right, especially that you are in the last year of your undergrad, please do not force yourself to go and do last minute job shadowing because this will only shows that you are just doing it for the sake of making your application look nicer, and this will sound a bit suspicious. Yeah, so I mean, like, there are a lot of students. I mean, like, more and more students are actually starting those like job shadowing, and volunteering work since year one, without even like asking. Or so it's really depend on individual who are really really want to find out more about the industry, or understand more before they commit themselves. So all these experiences is really, it's really based on what you really do, what are your interests, and not based on like how to improve the application. So if you are in the year 4, please do not add in unnecessary experiences, or anything that is needed for the application, because it might be too late for that. Yeah.
Okay. And this is one itself that they actually ask, how competitive are the scholarships for Duke and US? Are there any baseline requirements to be considered?
Yep, so there will be requirement which I won't be able to share. So for the financial aid wise, right, we do provide the merit scholarship, the bursary, and also tuition fee loan. So for the merit scholarship, as you can see from the title, right, it's based on merit. So mainly it's on the academic side. So based on the GPA and the MCAT and some of your portfolio that you have. So competitiveness, I think yes, it's definitely very competitive, because each class we are only having 78 students. So among the 78, right, we have some students who are scoring like 5.20 and above for the MCAT, and GPA almost like perfect. So you'll be competing with this kind of caliber of students. Yeah. So MCAT is very important. So just spend more time to prepare for the MCAT before you actually go for the test. Yeah.
Okay. And this is a question that I've actually just gotten also. For the personal statement itself, right, will it actually be sent through like Turnitin checker itself, or like an AI, right, that will actually pick out keywords, or would it be read by a person? And what are the key things that we should have on it?
Okay, so normally I will advise students, once the application or the application portal is open, right, which is on the 1st of June, right, just try to log in to understand the whole process first of how to submit the documents. So example, for the reference letter, right, you will need to input the referee's name and the email address. Then there will be an auto-generated email sent to the referee with the template that we have. So they have to fill out the reference letter, and we don't accept any other form of reference letter from students. So referee will fill up the template, then send it back to us. So there won't be students won't know what they are writing in as the referee. Yeah. So there won't be a standard question or answer being sent. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's time to basically prepare all the students itself, right, to not basically try to tell their referees, oh, please write more in terms of this area, please write more in terms of that area, that kind of. Okay. With the other one itself, right, there are actually a few. So one of the other one that they have actually asked itself, right, what are you looking for from a recommendation letter?
Don't know how to.
Yes.
Okay, so for recommendation letter, right, normally try to get one from at least one from the academic side. And then if you are really having like job shadowing or even volunteering work, you can also get at least one from that particular sector. But if you are not, then if you are limited, it is also a best chance for you to start finding your referee, since you are in I mean, like, if you are not in the last year, if you are, let's say you are in year 1, year 2, you can actually start preparing to find the referee that can actually vouch for your personality and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right. Then for other ones itself, right, in terms of like, okay, this one here is actually from a student itself who is actually in a sense going through at national service. After their national service itself, right, if for example during the national service they did something a bit relevant, like for example they are actually posted into like medic or anything like that, will Duke and US actually take a particular preference in terms of like students who have actually gone through a medic kind of like vocation? Or
Okay, so we wouldn't take a preference, but it will be a good add-on to your portfolio. Yeah. So all okay, so the application, right, it's not the more you put in, the more favorable you'll get. So it's more on how relevant it is and how you package yourself to, so it's there are some students that just put in a lot of things, but which really doesn't make them stand out. So just pick and choose which one will make you stand out, and not the quantity, it's more on the quality.
All right. This one here you have actually answered already, but I'm just putting it out. Duke-NUS actually mentioned that there is no, in terms of like segregation, in terms of how they actually consider students, whether did you actually in a sense complete your studies locally or if you actually completed your studies abroad. So I believe this also would be posted to those who have actually completed their private institution study itself.
Yep, it's applicable too.
Okay. And this one here, okay, I have a really odd one also. But majority of them itself, right, are basically asking in terms of for foreign students itself, or like for PRs itself, right, they are considered without any sort of like biasness or anything like that.
No. So we consider all our medical students, like the competition will be fair. So even after you graduate, right, like let's say you are going for the residency program, applying for the residency program, you will still be treated as the same. Because we are trying to make sure that all other medical students will actually receive the same treatment even after they graduate, so that they can actually help out with the industry. So that is the main point, that we take in international students also. Yeah.
Okay. I'm actually still waiting right now for some of the other students to put in their questions. Earlier on itself, we actually spoke mostly in terms of recommendation letters. But what about personal statements? Especially when they actually use like ChatGPT. Like currently almost everyone is using ChatGPT. That's refine their personal their personal statements and everything. Is that wise to use it, or would basically admissions with Duke-NUS, right, have like an AI tracker itself to say, oh, you actually use this from ChatGPT, or this is from somewhere?
No, we won't. So yes, you can use ChatGPT, but it's really okay. I think I did mention earlier that the personal statement is really personal. So it's really about your own motivation, your own stories on why you really want to come into the medical school. So you can write out all the content first and let ChatGPT to refine it. It's fine, because it will still be your own story. Yeah, just don't get information from others to plug in into your own story. Yeah, which doesn't make sense later on. Yeah, because once in the interviewer might ask related question about your personal statement, and when you can't even answer that, then makes the sound.
I don't really understand that itself. This is actually a continuation question from a student. Once you have actually finished your undergraduate itself, right, how many more years of studying itself is required for Duke-NUS? I believe the answer would actually be a 4-year program, right?
Yes.
And there is still residency that is required. How long would actually the residency be?
Okay, so how the pathway looks like is 4 years for Duke-NUS MD program. Then after 4 years, you'll be graduating. So only after you graduated, right, then you will need to go through the postgraduate year 1, which is the housemanship, before you actually get the license to practice. And only after you completed the postgraduate year 1, then you can actually start applying for the residency program. So the residency program is really dependent on which specialization that you are looking at. And each specialization will have a different years of training. So it's not about studying anymore. It's more on a training to become the specialist.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would students feel behind their other peers who have actually gone into like an undergraduate medical school program?
No. So for all the MBBS school and the MD school, which is the Duke-NUS school, we do provide the same, almost the same curriculum. So it's really our medical school aim is really to groom and educate medical students to be efficient and effective doctors in future. So they won't be lagging behind the other peers from the MBBS side.
Okay. So I do hope this actually answers your question, all right? Are there any more questions that you would like to, in a sense, post over to Duke-NUS? You may actually choose to, in a sense, unmute yourself and actually ask Zach in terms of the questions personally. It would actually be a good thing also because Zach is here right now to, in a sense, help answer almost any questions that is actually available. And he is actually the right person to ask because he is what we call the insider itself in terms of Duke at US. Okay, the other one that was actually asked is how many students are actually admitted each year to Duke and US?
Yeah, it will be 78 students per intake. Yeah.
Okay. So out of the 78 itself, you will have at least about a few thousand in terms of applying. And
Yeah.
and thereafter itself is actually the tutoring process, right?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe you can actually share share your response in terms of this particular scenario. I have a student who is finishing a 4-year pharmaceutical science program itself. Her CGPA at the moment is about like 3.98 out of 5. She has done some volunteering work itself with the clinics. She has also done some research. Would this be like a good candidate for application?
I mean, yeah, that should be a good candidate, but every year, right, every intake, we do have different kind of candidates. So there won't be a guarantee that you are the best candidate or you are a good enough candidate. So some batches, we really have those like, even like half of them are like perfect scores in the academic and they have all the experiences. So it's really on the competition on that particular batch. Yeah. But I say it's really you need to compete with yourself and not others. So you just need to make sure that you have done your best and you have done sufficient research before you actually apply and making sure that this is what you really want. I think that matters more than competing with others. Yeah, because it will be never ending. Yeah.
Okay. Then is there like a hard cutoff score itself? Or there isn't any like that itself?
No, there is no cutoff score for GPA or MCAT, but there is for the GAMSAT, which is the 90th percentile.
Okay. Is there like a certain thing itself that you will actually like consider for specialization? Like for example, if a student actually does like an undergraduate itself in psychology, right? Will they actually stand like a higher chance in terms of going into psychiatry as a specialization later on?
No, okay, so so for students, right, most of the students will have a specific specialization that they are interested in before they even come into the medical school. So once they are inside the medical school, right, some of them or most of them will actually change their mind. So there won't be a preference. Let's say if you are coming from psychology undergrad, then next time you definitely can get in. So it's still based on the performance, your grades, during the rotation or even during the whole MD program. Then there'll be a specific set of requirement for that particular residency program for them to consider the application. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So during the course of studies itself, will there be an attachment to NUH and how long is the attachment?
Okay, so for the curriculum, how it looks like is the first year, right, there will be the fundamental of science. I mean, a lot of theories, a lot of like courses to be covered. Then there will be hands-on practices and so on and so forth. Then year 2 onwards, there'll be clinical rotation. So students will be rotated in the hospital and in the different department, different specialization to understand. So that is why I said that most of the students will actually change their mind on their thinking of that particular specialization once they're exposed in the rotation. So during the rotation, they will understand like the in-depth and what they are really doing behind the scene. So that is where they have to really think whether this is the right path or right career for me in future if I choose this. Is it aligned to their like their future planning or their future career mindset? Yeah, so the rotation is a good way for them to really see and observe. Then year 3 will be we'll be exposing them to the research side, the component. And then year 4 will have the advanced rotation before they graduate. So there will be 2 years of rotations. And even in year 3, right, if let's say they are doing the research in Singapore, they'll be doing the research only from 6 to 8 months. Then they'll be also doing some family medicine rotation during year 3. So there should be sufficient understanding of how it looks like in the particular department or specialization during the 3 years.
Okay. Early on, you actually mentioned they can actually do their research in Singapore. Are they also actually allowed to do their research overseas?
Yes. So there will be opportunity for them to go to Duke-NUS MD, the US, to do the research for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is it competitive to actually apply for that research with Duke in the US?
Yes, of course, it's very competitive.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the most important is for the research is like what kind of research you are looking at. Doesn't mean that you go to deep site, you will get a better scores or whatever, but then it's really depend on what kind of research and whether it is feasible to go to the Duke site. And if you have any connection or understanding that okay, the supervisor there is specialized in these particular topics. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see if there are actually any other ones. This one here, he actually asked, right, does the undergraduate course affect your chances of getting in? For example, computer science has a higher bell curve and getting GPA might be tougher. Well, from what I do understand, from what Zach has actually mentioned itself, right, they mainly look in terms of your overall GPA itself. Of course, if you can score like a flat 5 out of 5 itself or like a flat 4 out of 4, that would actually, in a sense, boost your application in a sense. But at the same time itself, right, you need to, in a sense, be able to have the right entrance exam results that is required, like GAMSAT at the top 90th percentile, or even like for MCAT itself, like if you are actually above 515 itself, that would actually put you at a better standpoint. Am I correct, Zach?
Yeah, yes. So I mean, like, I think I did mention also, if let's say you score below the average, right, it's still okay because we are still assessing each candidate holistically. So you might have a good GPA, you might not have like MCAT, which is above 505, but you do have other components like the research experience, volunteering, all that. So it do counts during our assessments for the application.
Okay. Let me very the other ones. Well, the one that actually asked for psychiatry, so has been very, very supportive. Thank you very much for that. I understand that you have already had that interest since young, so it is actually good to try and, in a sense, continue with it, and perhaps also look in terms of going into a lot of different other specializations to see which one would actually suit you further in the future. For the other ones, okay, this one here is up for local biomedical science degree. Do you need to apply for postgraduate medicine after or before you apply for your undergrad? I can actually answer this question itself. If you have, in a sense, started your degree itself, right? Like what Zach has actually mentioned, you actually start preparing for the MCAT itself from year 2 onwards, and you actually apply after you actually completed it itself. After you've actually completed your degree, the application will actually start from the 1st of June all the way until the end of January, if I'm not wrong. And your interviews are all in between there itself from September all the way to March. So try not to, in a sense, procrastinate, because procrastination itself is the first and only one itself, right, that will actually deter you from actually getting the spot. And that's the other one I can actually look at itself is any other ones who are actually looking in terms of asking questions, you are more than welcome to basically stop me and basically ask Zach in terms of what you actually would like to find out. Okay, then I believe that everyone is probably still contemplating himself, but what I would actually want to do is I can actually relieve you right now itself, And thank you very much in terms of actually joining in this particular panel discussion. It is actually very, very fruitful, to be very honest. Even for myself itself, right? I am actually learning a lot of new things right now, and it is interesting. Oh, one student actually asked if we have more questions, can we have Zach's contact, for example, email, or to direct everything over to me, then I can actually just send them to you at one go itself.
Yeah, that will be fine.
Okay. So, and then of course the other one itself they actually asked, right, is how is the research like in the university? What's the process like?
So for the research, right, I think it's really based on what is your interest. So the research topic can be set by yourself. And during year 2, right, you actually need to submit the research proposal before you commence the research in year 3. So once you have the research proposal approved, right, then there will be a tag with a supervisor, which will lead you during the year 3. So if let's say you are in Singapore, you'll be 6 to 8 months, and then in Duke, it will be 1 year. So during that particular month, right, you will be focusing just on your research topic and research finding. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see if there is actually any more. Okay. So I would like to actually thank you, Zach, for actually joining in our tiny little panel discussion here itself. I'm sure most of the students and parents who are actually with us right now, right, they are actually a bit more relief. I mean, with the answers that are actually coming from the university itself, like it has actually helped them in terms of like finding out, okay, I shouldn't really like look only on one side. I should basically focus on a more holistic kind of approach. They are a bit more informed right now, and if I actually missed out anything itself, I do apologize. But let's try and see if we can actually get a final one first. Otherwise, Zach, I would like to thank you once again itself for actually in a sense being able to actually be present on a Saturday morning to in a sense help us with this particular panel discussion.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Zach.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. For the rest of you itself who are currently here right now, right, I really do thank you for in a sense putting up most of the questions that are actually available on our chat. Please do let me know if there are any questions that have not been answered, especially when it comes to the UCAT questions or even like the shadowing questions. You may actually post them here right now before we actually move on to the personal branding exercise. So from what I do understand itself, right, there is actually one of you who have actually in a sense asked in terms of just give me a minute. So you have actually asked in terms of if you do not meet the cutoff for NUS or NTU and AAA/A itself, right, do you really stand no chance to enter? To be very honest itself, right, this is an area that none of us can in a sense answer for you. Reason being is because you may have there may be a lot of other determining factor itself. Like for example, like what Coach Joyce has actually shared, you may actually be monotonous, you may not actually be actually having like you may be like, in a sense lacking eye contact with the interviewer, you may not actually be performing during the interview. So all of this itself, right, actually plays a certain role itself, right, in terms of whether will you get in or will you not get in. Universities at this moment right now, they don't really concentrate in terms of just getting you to meet the high scores. High scores is what, yes. But when it comes to the other factors whereby they are looking in terms of like, what are your decisions in terms of going into medicine? What have you in a sense done to in a sense meet that requirements and all the sorts? And so that is it. Well, to be honest, it's up with your results at like an RP of 90. I don't see any issues in terms of you not being able to be shortlisted for an interview, to be honest. But you will need to ensure that your personal branding itself, right, is evident, and it basically, in a sense, brings you out, rather than you hide all your achievements in terms of all the other things that are relevant itself, right? And you hide it like underneath other things, and it's not showing for the assessors to, in a sense, look at. If you don't get 90, you get 85 or lower. This one here really depends on the university itself already at this moment, because the universities are the only one that will actually be able to, in a sense, give you like a direct answer in terms of whether you get in or you don't. But at this moment itself, if you put in an application and you are basically between like RP of 85 to like 90, I mean, you can still be considered, but it really depends on all your other factors that you have in the submitted to them. Personal statement is actually very, very important. Like what Zach has actually mentioned earlier on itself. If you were to take in examples from your other friends, or you basically take in examples from other things that are not related to you itself, and you are unable to explain this during the interview, it's not going to reflect nicely. That's all I can say.